Some moments split your life into two, this before and after. In this episode, Donna Kendrick shares the heartbreaking day that everything changed for her family and how she rebuilt her life. Not just to survive, but to serve others walking through their own pain. This is a story of grit and purpose and choosing light, even when the darkness feels overwhelming.
So I opened the door and I look, and our bed was made. One thing my sweet husband Greg never did was make the bed. Never made the bed. And right then and there I knew something happened to him and he didn't want someone walking in a messy bedroom. So I opened the door further and he had taken his life in our closet. And what do you do when you see that and you knew he was gone?
I'm Matt Gilhooly, and this is The Life Shift, candid conversations about the pivotal moments that have changed lives forever. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Life Shift podcast. I am here with Donna. Hello, Donna.
Hello, how are you, Matt?
I'm doing well, thank you. And thank you for wanting to be a part of the Life Shift podcast. I often refer to this show as the healing journey that I never knew I needed. So thank you for just coming along the ride.
And thank you for putting all of that out there. I'm really impressed by what you do, and I'm happy to be a part of it. So thank you.
If someone's tuning in for the first time because you're on the show, they want to hear your story, or they've heard your story, but they want to hear it in this way. The show really stems from my own personal experience. When I was 8, I had what I refer to my line in the sand moment, my life shift moment. My dad sat me down. I was visiting him over the summer. My parents were divorced. I lived with my mom full time. And my dad sat me down one day after summer camp, and he had to tell me that my mom had died in a motorcycle accident with her boyfriend. And at that moment in time, it felt like nothing that we had planned for anything after that was ever going to be possible. I had to move states. I had to move schools. I lost all my friends. My family was no longer around me. All the things just felt so different in one moment to the next. And so when I started this podcast, I wanted to talk to people about these line in the sand moments, realizing that we have multiple life shift moments throughout our lives. But it's really just been such a healing journey to have these real conversations with people about the hard parts, the good parts, the messy parts, all the parts of the human experience. Before we get into your story, perhaps you can tell us who you are in 2025. Like, how do you identify? How do you show up in the world?
So I usually show up as Donna Kendrick. That is actually my full name, but everyone in my family, big old Polish family, everyone's names rhyme. So there's Marlene, Charlene, Irene, Donna Jean. So when I hit college, actually high school, I dropped the Jean. I'm like, no way, I'm not rhyming with the dog. The dog is Maxine. No way, no more. So I consider myself a widow who is now in a blended family. I was remarried 2 years ago. I bring this up because I am very happy. So where I am in this world, recreated my career after my husband's loss, and really am in my groove and really giving back the way I want to the community. And I bring up the name change because I'm now known as DJ to all of the 6 kids in the house. They refer to me, even when I'm in the room, as DJ. Text, hey DJ. So that's that. So I am now, for some reason, without me even wanting it, I am now DJ. That's who I am in 2025.
How do you feel about that? How do you really feel about that, DJ?
I feel like I've raised 6 sarcastic children. Yeah, that's it.
So you feel good.
Yeah, real good. They're giving back in the world. I know they are. So.
Exactly. I mean, what is life without sarcasm, right?
Right? It's so nice. You know who to keep close and who not when you play a little sarcasm out there. When we have guests that come to the house and everyone's in rare form, so we're like 8 solid on a good holiday, and that's just our immediate family. Kids go from 15 to 23. And some people who are a little shy or don't know us well, I can see, like, they just get shell-shocked. They're like, how do you do that to one another? I'm like, what? Do what? Like, it's fine. No one's safe. Don't have a tick. It's bad.
I love that. I mean, I think it's you can feel your energy. You can feel the joy that you're exuding, and it feels very real. So thank you for showing up in that way. I imagine you do that in your profession and in your personal life as well. And it seems to be fulfilling in that way.
Thank you. I always believe that we have today. And so I'm living it up. Like, I'm living it. I'm making an impression on others. I'm helping and serving. And I can also really cherish who I am too and make it my best day. And then tomorrow I get to do it again. That's a privilege. And I live by that. I do.
That's beautiful. Here's me being a cynic.
Good.
Do you have bad days?
I do. I do. It's hard because I don't think my family knows how to handle it. They just think I'm tired. I often do very long days at work. But when it's a bad day, you have that one or two people who can see through it, and they know. They know straight out. They know straight out. But I will tell you, I try to shake it off. So tomorrow, it's an opportunity to grow from what made it a bad day, and let's go again. So I always say I have a 24-hour rule. Even if it's a really bad day, I'll sulk, I'll kick and scream, I'll whine like a baby. But yeah, you got to find your Philadelphia, and you got to have a good day the next one. So
yeah. Now, this is going to be me assuming, but I think your story that we're going to talk about today might have informed some of this, or have you always been that way?
I've always, I will call myself, and I'm stealing this from, I think Margaret Thatcher. I'm an optimist who worries. That's it. So I'll wake up and every day is shiny and happy, and have been that way since I was a kid. But deep inside, the worry was always there and going. I will tell you, after this life shift, that's when everything just started of like, hey, where's that getting you, that worry? Let's just, if you have a worry, let's action it. Let's do something to change it. So that motivation part of life to get rid of the worry is what happened after the life shift.
Okay. Well, why don't you kind of paint the picture of leading up to this life shift moment, and however far back you need to go to kind of give this before version of Donna or DJ.
There you go. It was Donna. But yeah. So yeah, born and raised in Philadelphia, if anyone can tell, because I don't say a G, and we're always going somewhere. I drink water, but that's how it works. So I own it. Married my husband, Greg, and my dad was a Philadelphia firefighter. His dad was a police officer at Philly. So we can say we met through the Police and Fire Credit Union, and that our dad set us up. But that sounds like we couldn't get dates, and we could. That's it. But fast forward, we had 3 kids. He worked for Homeland Security, so it was almost like a military life. So we moved around almost every 2 years, or at least the kids did with school. And for a while there, we lived over in Rome, Italy for about 5 years. So it was like 7 years of that kind of military existence. During that time, I had given up my career. I was doing financial forecasting for the pharmaceutical industry because it was a conflict of interest with his position and where we were at the embassy. Wound up teaching English to Italian kids and raising my kids, and it was a really nice life. We did well. We were able to get back close to the Philadelphia area in 2011, and then back to Philly, again, right outside of Philly in a little suburb. Kids were finally in a nice school district. My little one was learning to perfect English because he went, of course, to Italian school when we were over there. Not saying that he was fluent, stubborn little guy, but moved into a new house. 3 months later, he passed away, and that was the life shift. The life shift was the exact moment when, how do we say it? He had battled with depression early on in our relationship before we were even married, and we had gone to counseling together. I was not the problem. So we went to counseling together, and we really learned some great tools like to help him with. A lot of it was work and management of stress, and he put a lot of expectations on himself. And I think that was who he was as a college student. I think that's who he probably was when I talked to his brothers and sisters as a kid. Right? Like even in 7th grade, a lot of pressure on himself. So that was catching up to him as he was being promoted very quickly through where he was. But we got those tools in place and we did well. And none of that really showed when we were in Italy. Not at all. When we had moved home in 2011 and he commuted really far, and work was very stressful. And he had some really bad, we now would consider it depression, but it was never formally diagnosed. And him and I kept it very, very quiet. Kept it quiet from society, kept it quiet from work, kept it quiet from the kids. There were days where he would be a full week tucked into bed, and my kids would think he was on a trip. Like, that's how smoke and mirrors we handled it.
Yeah. Was it just fear of like what others might think, or his job was too important that he thought they were going to get rid of him?
Exactly. It was his job, and he was law enforcement. So he did not want a diagnosis of depression because it would take his firearm. Therefore, he wouldn't be law enforcement anymore. And this was the job that he had always wanted since
identity gone, right?
Like he interned with them in college, and he loved what he did and was very, very good at it. So knowing that he had hit a bump like this early on and gotten better, he was just waiting for the get better part. But maybe it was age, maybe it was stress, maybe it was he was so happy when we were in Italy and come back stateside. I, on the opposite side, was not happy in Italy and happy when we came home. I don't know really what it was, but he did go to therapy in different ways, and he really started taking care of himself. We moved back to the Philadelphia area, not just for the job, but to actually get him a position that wasn't as stressful. And we moved into a much smaller house, and so there was no more financial pressures. And because he wasn't traveling as much, I was able to get back into the workforce, right? Or at least starting to. So he was coming home for dinner every night, and it was actually really good. I would say we lost him when it was a really good upswing. Yeah. So, yeah, the day we lost him, he was actually holding, for any football fans out there, I don't know what it is. I call it the sticks. Like on the sideline when you hold the marker, and the chains, they call it. He was actually holding the chains at my son was 8 years old, our youngest. We call him Squish. Squish was 8 years old. He was a really good linebacker because he was squishy. So he was holding the chains early that morning. We had opportunities to go out with his best friend from kindergarten. They lived about 5 minutes from us that night, like as a couple's night. And we were really excited. So after the football game, he was like, I'm going to go home and take a nap. I went out with other friends of ours with the kids to give him a quiet house. Came back home and literally was like downstairs folding the laundry. Because of course, I'm very successful, but I don't like ironing. So I stuck my blouse for the day into the washing machine, into the dryer with a wet towel so I could get the wrinkles out, right? So I was down there and I was taking out my blouse, about to go upstairs and get ready. And I had sent my daughter upstairs to wake up Daddy, tell Daddy to get ready, right? I'm coming in for the shower. And she came down, she said, Mommy, it's very weird. The door's locked. You know in your belly, but I've got 3 kids in the house. So all right, don't worry about that, right? Daddy's probably napping. It's still, quote unquote, a new house. We'd only been there for 2 or 3 months. So I got the kids busy downstairs, and I hear my little one say, don't worry, Mommy, I know how to pick a lock. And I was like, no, you just stay downstairs. I know how to pick the lock. Pick the lock, and I always say the first vision, it was like tunnel vision. It was like, and when you share the story about finding out your mom died, I'm like, oh, I know that moment. Truly, listeners, it is like the movie where everything goes slow motion. So I opened the door and I look, and our bed was made. One thing my sweet husband Greg never did was make the bed. Never made the bed. And right then and there, I knew something happened to him, and he didn't want someone walking in a messy bedroom. So I opened the door further, and he had taken his life in our closet. And what do you do when you see that? And you knew he was gone. There was no doubt. And so I quietly locked the door, and I shut it behind me. Went downstairs and said, kids, Daddy needs a little help. I need to call an ambulance, but I don't want you guys here when the ambulance comes. So I'm going to get the next door neighbors who I knew were home. They're very sweet, to drive you to Aunt Charlene's. That's my sister, rhymes for Donna, to my sister's house. And they were like, oh, is that, they kind of went white. They were like, well, what do you mean? I was like, no, it's just Daddy needs help. And I just don't want you guys here, when the ambulance comes. So they got whisked off by my very helpful neighbors. And I remember trying to call 911, and I had what you call frozen tongue. Now I know what it is. I've Googled it. Thank you, Google. But I couldn't even say the words. I remember my neighbor taking the phone and being like, yeah, he shot himself. Crazy, right? That was one of the pivotal moments in the next hour after that. Because when the police came, there were no kids there. I had actually taken our beautiful Irish setter and put him in the cage, knowing that the police had to come in. But I forgot to tell them that I locked the door behind me. So the police go running up, and the door's locked. Now, if there's a dead person on the other side, it shouldn't be locked. So all of a sudden, I became a suspect. And I don't blame them. I was supposed to be. That was right. Because they had to identify where my kids were. Right? And the neighbors, everybody was like, no, she just cleared out. She knew what was happening. So I got put into my neighbor's backyard. They had a little bonfire. It was November, and sat there to wait while the police did their investigation. My sweet sister had come over. She was kind of monitoring the front of the house with the police and giving me information to the backyard. There was one police officer who I knew from church in that area who was put in charge of communicating with me. Or I could say making sure I didn't go anywhere. That's what he was in charge of. And that's how the night went on. And for that night, I always remember sitting by the fire. And I've just shared this recently. And to your point, I would always say my husband died suddenly. I would never say it was suicide. Out of respect for him out of respect for his extended family that had a very difficult time because of their Irish Catholic base, really wrapping their heads around it. And it's actually been freeing to say it again. I wrote a book a few years ago, and the whole story, and was what I've just said, or in the first few chapters. I thought, oh, thank God, I never have to tell this story again. But what that did is open up the channels to tell the story again and again and again, so that people could really learn from it. But I will tell you, sitting next to that fire, I really thought, I'm a girl from Philly. I am not going to let this define me. Grit was something I always had. I can tell you upbringing wasn't the best, right? But I always got it through. And I always say, no matter what happened to me in my upbringing, I always had me. Like, nobody could take me, the person inside. And so I was like, this. I won't let this change me. And that was the vow I made right then and there, with the bonfire going, that I was going to find my grit and my kids were going to be okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry is like not the right word, and I understand that fully. It doesn't do anything, but I do have such empathy for you in this feeling of sudden loss, knowing the life that you were building, the challenges that you had gone through, the things you knew, like you had these gut feelings, and it's the human experience that nobody talks about. And it's just so important that you are talking about it. And I think for many reasons. I mean, people listening, there are so many people out there that have unfortunately experienced something very similar with people around them, and then they box it up. They keep it inside, like it's ours to hold on to for some reason. But we're all just trying to get through this life and whatever pieces are given to us and how we handle this. So first of all, I'm just so sorry that you had to go through this experience.
Oh, thanks.
But also the strength for yourself and for your children that you showed in the moment. Was that on character, on brand for you in the way that you would approach hard things in your life before?
You know, I think it's very funny. I think I have to thank my husband, Greg, for that, because when we lived abroad, he was, I wouldn't say he was an optimist who worried. He just worried. He would always say, like, if something happens to me, how are you going to get the kids out of the country? If something happens to me, how are you going to get to the embassy or the Vatican? If something, like, how are you going to do it? Like, I remember in Rome, traffic is like New York traffic on ancient roads. It is horrible. And I was there in like a US blue minivan. Like, I was a target waiting to happen. You couldn't get anywhere. It took you hours to go 3 miles. And back in Italy, I started running marathons because I thought, well, I got 2 kids that I can put in a stroller. I can put one on my back, and I will get to the Vatican. It's a 3-mile run by foot if I had to.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's a solve that most people wouldn't have.
Yeah. And I always remember we got stranded in Florence once. The entire country lost power. And we had 3 little kids. I mean, they were 5, 3, and 2. Yeah, I think so. It took us a good 36 hours to get home because there was no power. There was nowhere to stay. There was no food to be had. We're running out of diapers. And I was like, well, no matter what, we will get home at some point in time. So those are things that my husband really put in me. Like, you'll be fine. You're going to get back where you need to get back. So just stay still. But yeah, I give that to him. Like, always knowing in a restaurant where you evacuate, counting the seats when you're on an airplane so you know how to get out the side. Some people think it's neurotic. I was trained that way. I'm so sorry. Like, that was it.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it probably served you in this moment to also give you something to do. Are you someone, I'm like that. If I'm in some kind of state, like I have to go into project mode to kind of put things in order so that I feel like I'm accomplishing something, I guess.
Yeah. And let's talk about that. That was me the whole first year. Like, I tell you, the pity party that happened at that bonfire, and then not very often afterwards.
Really?
Like, for the whole first year. Very hard telling his family. Very hard. But
Telling
after
your
that,
kids.
Tell
Did you have
the
to
kids.
tell your kids?
I did. It was probably about 2:30 in the morning. I drove over to my sister's house, and they were all on the couch watching TV, waiting for me.
Yeah. What ages were they?
They were 8, 11, and 12. So they kind of knew, but they didn't know. And I just said it. I was like, Daddy was dead when I told you he had to go. Like, I always knew that I wasn't going to ever not tell them the truth. We can give them bits of information that are age specific and loss specific, but I was never going to lie. Or just think that they couldn't handle it, because I don't want them hearing it from anyone but me, right? And luckily enough, I did, because, wow, we're the new family in the school district who someone just committed suicide. I hate to say it that way, or took their life by suicide, but that's what the gossip was. Oh, do you know their dad committed suicide? And my kids are hearing it on the bus 2 weeks after their dad passed, because I will tell you, I was the mom that was like, you guys have 1 week to be off from school, and we are back. 1 week. Enjoy your week off. And they were on the bus. Like, they were just, this is the new normal. So here we go. But yeah, so the whole first year I was the brave widow. Projects, managing, counseling, the whole bit. And I just didn't want anything to catch up to me. So I 100%, I think we're talking to the same person here, except your hair is better. So, but then year 2 came. And after that year of the first, I was like, holy F, what am I going to do? And that's really when the tears came, right? And it's so funny. There's been more tears, I think, in the last 5 years than there were in the first 6. And that's okay. I think that's just maturity on my end.
Are you sharing more? I mean, you must be sharing more in the last 5 years.
100%. My entire practice, my financial planning practice, now helps widows, divorcees, and blended families. So it's a crux of everything I do all day long. We volunteer. My kids, the best thing my kids did, they went into this program called Safe Harbor. It's based off the Dougie Center, and it helps kids that have lost a parent or a caregiver. And when you even talked about being a young boy and like, it's just quiet, no one talks about, like, that's the exact opposite that we do at Safe Harbor. So we do a lot of fundraising for them, and I actually volunteer with the parent support group now. So this is my every day, the subject matter. I live it, I breathe it, and I'm passionate about it.
Yeah. Does it must give you more, I don't want to say more fulfillment, but it must be fulfilling because you know what it feels like.
100%. And I knew after Greg passed, like I said, I had given up my career to follow him abroad. Life insurance and a little bit of pension and some Social Security helps. Oh my gosh, it helps. I'm so happy we had all of that, but they go away at a certain period of time. And I knew I was 40 at the time. Like, I have a long stretch before 65 and that sweet old Medicare kicks in. What am I going to do? And so I knew I had to recreate my career or go back to the old one. And how do you do that with 3 grieving kids in a school district that they're brand new to? Like, it's like a big uphill battle. But I knew me. And I was like, I'm going to make something out of this. If I go back, it's going to have to be worthy. And I always say that's where you go from a job, which is like making waffles on the boardwalk, which I did in Wildwood. Listeners, Wildwood ain't bad. It's fine. To like a career, to financial forecasting. And now this is a mission, because it is the actual work I do that I enjoy. The actual work is what fulfills me, not money, not promotions, not anything else. It's the actual work. And that is the biggest change in the last 6 years.
Well, I want to thank you for your kids and for for being truthful with them. I mean, my dad was truthful with me with whatever he had. He says it's the hardest thing he's ever had to tell me. I'm sure that's probably very similar to what you had to talk to your kids, but putting them in places in which maybe they could move through life with the understanding and how to grieve and all those things maybe wasn't the 100% solve, but I thank you for them because I didn't have that opportunity. And I think I look at these programs now that exist that probably did not exist really widely.
Not really.
But, there's like this grief camp over in Europe. I don't know if you've seen that, where just a bunch of kids can go together. And it's not like they're going there to talk about the moments and all those things, but just people around you understand how you're feeling. You don't feel like you're the only person that has ever gone through this. So thank you for your kids.
Thank you. And I'll share with you. We'll go a little deeper. So like, I am remarried, got remarried 2 years ago, wonderful man. And his kid's mom passed away a year and a half ago. So when we say we're the blended family, we are the 2 parents with 6 kids from 15 to 23. And let's talk about, when you talk about shared environment. So now we have 3 kids that lost their dad years ago. We have 3 kids that watched their mom battle cancer for years, and then she passed. But they're always just like, you're no different than me. we are all on the same playing field here. We're all living with a parent that is not our true parent, but they have to carry all of the roles, right? And we are now looked at as siblings, and we don't really belong to one another, but they do in a very weird way. And it was this common story that I believe has bonded them into this beautiful, sarcastic bunch of a-holes at times, but they are fantastic together and they lean in on one another. And it puts my husband and myself both in like, not you're divorced and I'm widowed, right? He's in this weird thing of being divorced and then widowed, right? Like, or I don't know. I don't even know what you call him. We have to make up a word. But to be able to share in all of that has been amazing. But it was also, those kids went to a grief camp even before their mom died to teach them really, okay, we know it's going to come, right? So how do we talk about this? How do you manage extra family? How do you say when you need quiet time? How amazing for the evolution of who we are as Americans to have that there. And these kids handled the loss of their mom so gracefully. I'm impressed by them every day.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's beautiful. And it's the power of story, right? Like, I mean, if we break it down to like the most basic thing, it's like sharing story, whether it's the most beautiful story or the most challenging story, sharing that binds us. It brings us together. We understand each other. I mean, this is your Brady Bunch type family is like, so the perfect example of that, of the other kids can see your kids and how they're modeling life after. And I mean, there's just such beauty there. I'm sure it's challenging at times, but
there's no maid. We don't have an Alice.
Oh, you don't have an Alice?
Oh yeah, it's coming. It's going to come. It's all going to be smooth once the Alice comes. It's going to be fine.
That's what they thought too. No, I mean, I just think it's beautiful on so many levels, of such a challenging story for all parties, but to find this blended beauty, which is, dare I say, pretty common these days, of trying, not the beauty part, but blending families and bringing families together. But you have such a unique, not approach, but a unique coming together, I guess, because of the experiences that you have. Was that challenge to, as a woman going into dating again or meeting someone new, is that, does what happened to your first husband play any role in approaching dating again?
Matt, now you're getting juicy. So, no, it's all good. I will honestly say, if I can look back, right, because you don't know where you are at the moment. If I can look back, I dated a little bit too soon. And my choices in people to date were probably not the best, right? But I always look back on it now saying, like, I really felt that I didn't have much value after Greg took his life. Because I was like, oh, if I'm not worth staying alive for, what am I worth, right? That was in my head, because I would never say that to my kids. That wasn't the case, and I knew it wasn't. There might be a part of Greg that left because he did love me so much. Like, I'm not even sure. But I think that put me in a whirlwind of just wanting someone to tell me I was lovable. Therefore, dated too early, not the right people. And you realize that, and your kids definitely tell you that, right? And when you're wise enough to listen, finally, you do. So if the kids are listening, thank you. I listened. It wasn't that too long.
They probably thank you as well.
They do. They really didn't like it. It still comes up in sarcastic conversations. I'm like, oh my God, that was like 10 years ago. You gotta stop. And then I had really just taken myself out of the dating for a little bit there. And how I met my husband now, we met organically. He was a friend of a friend who came to help me with a house that we had bought that needed a lot of work. And so that was that. So then we fast forward, our worlds connected again. We were already friends. We already knew one another. And that was so refreshing that you don't have to go through the weird date. Like, this person's been in your house for 2 years, ripping down drywall, right? And he would work nights and weekends because he was taking care of his kids full time at that time. So, like, wow, right? Like, even him and his wife came to my house when I had run out of money. So I was like, okay, open house. Like, let's just show off what we got because they ain't getting any better. This is it. Like, they had all come to the house with a big house party that we had. So, like, that was kind of the connections of the family that we all knew when we actually did get married. And then when we found out that his ex-wife was so sick, that was after we had already been married. My kids actually sat me down because we lived in an adjacent school district. My kids are the older three. I married younger, but are the older three. And the other kids were the younger three. And my kids were like, you cannot, when their mom dies, have them leave their school district and leave everything that they know and move into our house. I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? Right? Like, finances are finances. And they're like, well, you'll figure it out, but you can't have them do that. You know that. So it was my kid that kind of sat me down. I was like, no way. Like, these kids get a fighting chance. They are not going to leave their school district. So January of my youngest Squish, right, of his senior year, we called his school and they're like, yeah, as long as you've been here since January 1st, he can graduate the school. And my husband and I went and bought a foreclosure house in his kid's school district that could fit everybody. Not as a financial planner, I'm not going to tell you how I did it, but there were some sacrifices on my end to get that in. And he is actually redoing the house room by room, piece by piece. He's a talented carpenter, and he had to learn a lot off YouTube on top of being a talented carpenter to make this house so that we could afford being in that district. Everybody would have their own room, and that it wasn't our house or their house. It was our family's new house. And I would stress over finances and do that again and again and again. Even though we didn't have running water or sewage for a long time, everyone showered in my office. It was pathetic. Or the gym, but it was okay. We're there now. Everything flushes and runs, so we're good. But when my stepkids, I don't even call them my stepkids, when their mom died, within a half hour, they were in our house. And it was like they didn't skip a beat. They were already familiar with it. She had seen their rooms. They had already moved their winter clothes in. Like, they knew. And so they just shifted. And that's when you call this the life shift. I'm like, oh, these little babies should be on the show. Because they did. They just shifted. It was beautiful for them.
You guys set that that's, if you could paint a perfect picture of a terrible circumstance, you made it happen. You sacrificed for all that. And to be triggered by your kids to do that, like, it's so beautiful.
They're really good eggs. But that also being said, did I do it without a little bit of irritation? Because I had become so fiercely independent since my husband passed, and I didn't want to share or didn't want to be vulnerable to anybody else again. Yeah, I use what we call EFT tapping to get out of my own way. I had to get out of my own way to be able to progress to this point with the kids. I was even hesitant to marry Jim, even though I adored him and I loved being married, and so did he. Even though it ended in divorce, he loved being married because I was so afraid of losing him one day. I was like, all right, well, I'll just not even have to patch that Band-Aid if I never marry him. The emotions were the same. And now if I look back on it, like, it was the best thing I ever did. It really was.
If you look back on that moment, where do you feel like you started healing the most? Like, what was that from the moment to, you said year 2 is when you started letting things in, but where do you feel like your healing took a turn?
I think it was at the end of year 2 when I was like, all right, like, I just had my pity party, right? Like, let's go. And I knew I had to recreate my career. I knew I had to go back and to be able to say what impacted me the most over the last 2 years. And that was truly the financial advisor that I had moved to, who really helped me understand, like, what I have to do in the immediate time, where could I slow my roll, and what was the long-term outlook. He never asked me to dream or plan till retirement. He knew I was hanging on to each day. So now I can say I live each day. Back then I was hanging on to each day.
Plus 3 kids.
Exactly. Yeah. And so and my kids were getting a little older by then. So they were like 14, 13, and 9, 11. There's math for a financial advisor, right? But they were older. Yeah. They could come off the bus on their own, right? The older brother could help take care. And I'm sure he bitched about it, but he did it because that's what you do for your siblings when you got a sole parent. But I reached out to my financial advisor. I said, out of everything that happened in the last 2 years, what you did for me was the most refreshing. It was the most impactful because I just wanted the answer of, am I going to be okay financially? And he kept giving me that answer, yes, but we have some things we have to do, right? It's not just going to manifest. You're going to have to work at it. And so I went out to him. I was like, I want to do what you did for me, but for these families in transition, for these widows. The divorced people came a little later. I was just going straight for the widows and widowers. because that was most impactful and I wanted to niche that. And so when I started studying for those exams, I had to go back to school, study for those exams, and the whole bit, I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is exactly it. Like, I was a statistician in college, so that felt better. But to put the purpose behind it and to be able to say, I can hold your hand, I've been there, and I understand when you fall apart on year 2, you can come in for a little hug from your financial advisor and we'll have a cup of coffee. It's not all about your money and benefits and the whole bit, but I'm going to help hold your hand so that you don't have to be vulnerable again. So you don't have to be scared to get married again. You can be like, Donna's my financial advisor. We've got this. Welcome. Like, that's a whole different feeling. That changed everything for me. It gave me the purpose. It gave me the energy. It gave me the excitement because, I like to be accomplished. So I'm like, here we go. Let's go. And to see my kids really support me and to be kind of proud of me was really nice. Really nice. Yeah.
Did those, like, with your clients, did any of those conversations, I know it was work related, but did any of that, like, help you heal through your process of losing your husband?
It definitely did, because like you said, stories, right? When you share your stories, because a lot of it, when someone tells you, when they become comfortable with you and they're very vulnerable, you learn. You're like, oh my God, I felt that way too, right? And sometimes you just listen, but deep inside, I'm checking the boxes, being like, oh my God, I was not crazy in year 2. This happens, right? And it's not from the stages of grief. It comes very differently. That's just a good guide. But
Yeah. So it gave you some validation of some of your, I can't tell anyone this, I'm a little crazy right now, or whatever you were thinking. I had the same experience with this podcast. Beth is going to be so annoyed that I talk about her all the time, but this was where I knew the true power of story. Beth was on the show. Her father died when she was 5. She didn't have a great mother, so she was adopted by her grandmother, but she was really close with her father. And in her teen years, she convinced herself that her father was in witness protection. And I did the same exact thing as a teenager, but I would not dare tell a soul because I was like, I knew logically that that was not true. I knew it was a little crazy, a little weird. But when she said it, something lit up inside me where I was like, oh, I'm not weird. Like, I'm not a nut, well, maybe I am. But because of that moment, like, it just was so validating. And so I can imagine in these conversations, someone says something that maybe they think is a little weird. And you're like, me too.
Yeah, right. And sometimes I'm very honest. I'm like, oh, that happens, right? Like, to give them a little bit of relief. And back to the storytelling part, like, I have my version. I shared with everybody very openly about when I found Greg and what happened there. After my kids had gone through that safe harbor program years later, they had each taken a turn, not just randomly, not like a sit down, let's do this, but randomly about what they remember of the night. And it was so eye-opening to hear from the kids what it was. They left the house with no shoes on because I was so emphatic that they get out of the house. And their shoes were upstairs, and that's someplace they weren't going, right? It was up the steps that they literally went to my sister's with no shoes on their feet. I didn't know that. I thought I did a great job and made it all seamless.
You did a great job.
Thank you, my love. But those were those little things, right? Or the fact that my youngest was like, when we actually got his possessions back from the police officer, my son was there like 2 days later, or a day later. And on in the little bag where my husband's wedding ring and his watch were, it said victim. And so my son always had a question mark of, did daddy really take his life? Because why would it have a bag that says victim? These are things that you don't hear until years later when either they offer their story or you ask. Yeah.
Our story. When you said that, I have my mom's engagement ring right here. And it's like part of, the Life Shift podcast in a way that I can look over and realize, and this is probably true for your children. Maybe not. Maybe you're really good at sharing these stories. But like my mom right now, because I lost her at 8, which it sounds like your kids were around that same age, she's more of a figment these days of a mother, right?
Sure.
Like I can remember a little bit, but I don't have a lot of memories with her. And so there's this weird place right now in which she exists as the impetus for this show and for who I am as an adult now, for all the things that happened because of that moment. But also I carry her with me in a way that like it feels like she's here too.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. My youngest Squish, he was 8, same age, and he is very, very close with my husband, Jim. So Squish's real name is James. My new husband is Jim. They call him Junior, and it's just hysterical because, it's not blood. But he even says, like, I know of my dad from stories, but I don't even remember his voice. Because he was traveling or sick. I barely remember him outside of Rome when I was 3 to 5.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I mean, you've created beauty from a really devastating experience that you would not wish on anyone, and you would hope no one ever experiences that again. And the unfortunate nature is that people will. And so what's so important to me is that you continue telling your story. I mean, you wrote this book, which is great. I'm glad that wasn't the last time you told your story, as hard as it is, as hard as I see it is for you to still tell. There's so much power in sharing that. And I hope you feel that.
100%, which is why after the book came out, I've told the story so many times. Not usually this in depth, I will tell you. The door opening and all of that, I usually just say, found him, right? Like, that's that. But this was the pivotal moment. It really was. And my conversation at the bonfire with my head, with me, was really what I think back on a daily basis. Like, when you have those bad days, like, I got grit. I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be fine. So.
That was, I mean, it sounds like that was your protection. That was you, like, this is what I got to do. This is the mode I need to shift into right now, because the other parts I can't do right now.
Yeah.
It took me 20 years to find that version.
I was going to say, that's very mature of you, because that's true. Like, your brain will let you deal with what you can handle at certain points. And that was it. Like, it was peeling an onion after that. Like, and that was year 2. What can I handle? What can I not? And that was really redefining my career and working with everyone in widowhood. I learned from each and every one of my clients, each and every one.
Yeah. And I mean, just the purpose and now knowing the ripple effect that your role has on these women, these people that you work with, and how now you're helping them, which then in turn helps their children, which then, like, it just becomes this beautiful butterfly effect that you're creating with your work and getting paid for it. So that's nice too.
That does help. Yeah. Being able to support this family of 6 is, I'm going to get an Alice. I'm going to work harder. I'm going to get an Alice. But no, it's going to be fine. Once my husband's done with the 3rd floor bathroom, I was told I could get a little help in the house. So.
Wow. You got to get to the 3rd floor, but
we got to get to the 3rd floor. Yep. That sewage.
Definitely need some running water and some sewage. Yeah. So
we have the big kitty litter box in there. I'm like, good. It's a bathroom for someone. Awesome.
It's not for you guys, right? That's for just the cat?
It depends how much the kids have been drinking. It's fine.
No, I can I just say thank you for sharing your story? Because as wildly different as our stories are, hearing your story is like another Band-Aid on that wound that I didn't know I still had. So thank you for helping me in a healing way by just being you and by sharing how you navigated this life shift.
And I appreciate the safe environment you made to share that story. That's you. So thank you.
I hope my mom would probably be really upset that I was talking about her all the time, but because she was a very private woman from what I hear. But, I think if I could find some kind of silver lining, which it's maybe not the right words, had all that not happened, had I not failed at grieving for 2 decades, had my father, had the tools to help me or help himself or any of those pieces, we would not be having this conversation. We would not be, people would not be listening to this and maybe feeling less alone in their circumstances. So as hard as it is to say that certain things have happened because of that, I'm happy of my journey so far to bring me here. And I hope you feel the same for yourself.
I do. Sometimes I feel guilty by saying I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life. right? Because I have 3 beautiful babies, and I am so lucky to be a person that found love twice. Some people never find it. I mean, I found 2 great guys to be married to. So sometimes I feel really guilty saying that, but I will say I took this and I made purpose out of it. And so I'm allowed to be really happy and proud because of that.
Yeah.
I'm allowed.
Yeah. No, I think it's just a great model. I think sometimes, and maybe you know people in your life that have experienced loss and they carry it with them in a way that they think society needs to see them be downtrodden or broken all the time. And not because they don't want to feel good, but because they just think everyone should see them that way.
Sure.
And you are like, no, I'm going to make this good.
Yeah, I really am. I really am. Each and every day.
Well, I love it. I love that you found purpose. I love that you wake up each day and try to make it the best day that you can, because there's no doubt your children are like probably absorbing some of that, whether they want to admit it or not.
Thanks for saying that.
Story. So if you're listening, children, you probably have absorbed some of this. I think it's so important. If you now, DJ, could go back to Donna when you were folding your blouse or getting your blouse ready for that date, is there anything that like this version of you would want to whisper in her ear or do for her?
You know, I'm not a person that looks back in life and says, what if? Because you can't change it, right? You can't change what God does. You can't change what other people do. You can only change what you do. But again, I always believe I have the person talking in the back of my head, not schizophrenic listeners, but there's always someone in the back of your head talking to you as you're making decisions. It's your intuition. I like to call it your spiritual guide now, right? Like that's it. I would have just told her to breathe. Just breathe, right? I think I held my breath and ran through life for a good 2 to 3 years. I would have just told her to breathe through it. It might have helped a little bit.
Yeah. Wouldn't have changed anything, like you said, but...
No, it might have just helped.
Yeah.
To catch your breath, to take a moment, maybe to cry a little more in the beginning. Maybe. But who knows? But if I could have just breathed a little bit more, it would have been good.
It's an impossible question, but it's so, it's interesting. I think if we were to think of our lives like movies, that character would probably like do all these things to like change everything. And so many people, their responses to this impossible question are like, it's going to be okay, or you're going to be okay, or a hug, just simply no words, just a hug to know that like someone's got you. So it's nothing these big things. It's like human resilience is going to win in most cases. And so, thank you for telling your story in that way. And thank you for humoring me with this question.
I love it. I love it.
If people want to connect with you, they're inspired by what you've talked about or what you offer to the world, like what's the best way to get in your orbit, find your books, find your podcast? Like tell us all the ways to find you, unless you don't want them to.
No, pretty traceable. The best is going to DonnaJeanKendrick.com, and on there you'll find all of our books. We have a second book called The Blend, so navigating families, and you'll hear my real story of me and my temper tantrums about saying yes to marriage and blending finances and sharing. Like I didn't play nice I'm not a saint. I did not play nice in the sandbox. I'm like, prenup it out.
Are you an only child?
No. I know, right?
Yeah, I'm an only child. I don't like to share, so that's why I was curious.
Yeah. No, I think I just had an older sister who took everything. So you're just like, okay, if I have anything left over, I want it. Like, she was the type, like, you know how, like, you have a Pop-Tart and you have, like, the frosted side. She would, like, nibble off all the frosting and then hand me the Pop-Tart. No wonder I was so skinny. I couldn't give blood till I was like 24. I didn't hit the weight requirement. Now it's not a problem. But no, you can go to DonnaJeanKendrick.com. That has the widowhood book. It has the blended book. We're doing a book about navigating divorce fairly with your finances, love, heart, soul in place. All of our podcasts, speaking engagements, and honestly, the best part, a whole bunch of really good resources. Where to find help if you're in widowhood, how to navigate your own finances if you're on your own. Like I just needed those resources to be out there. How to like organize your documents if something happens to you as a sole parent, because it's more about the give. I'll be okay on my end. So let's just keep giving on this end. So, yep, DonnaJeanKendrick.com. That's where it all is, my friend.
Well,
I don't have t-shirts and good swag like you.
Well, not yet.
But no,
24-hour rule.
It's coming. Wait till my marketing person hears this. She's
That's
like,
right.
oh, golden.
Yes, I love it. Well, you already told me I could do it. So
Yeah.
What if someone's listening and they're feeling like you did in year 1, almost year 2, and they're feeling quite alone? Would you welcome people reaching out to you and just sharing their story with you? You can say no, but...
No, definitely. And we have our own podcast too, Widow, Wisdom, and Wealth. And we put that out there as a portal for people to share their stories. And that's kind of new for us. And I just think that we, like you said, we learn from other people's stories, not just me yabbering all the time on a podcast with a host. No, I want to learn from the other people. That's how we're inspired. That's it.
Wow.
Yeah, I welcome it.
Keep telling your story. Keep crying. I think that's important. It's healthy. We need to model that, and just keep being you. You're just such a light, despite this really hard story that you shared. I still feel your light and your energy that I mentioned at the very beginning. So thank you for showing up in this way. It changes my life, right? Just by this 1 hour that we spent together. It's just so important. So I encourage anyone listening, share your story, talk to people, listen to people. Even if it's the hard things that you grew up and you were told you were not supposed to talk about those things, do it anyway. Because there's so much value in it. Would you agree?
Yes. Use us as practice people. Give us a call, right? Like, even if you don't want to go public with it yet, just saying it out loud changes the world, right? I had to put it on pieces of paper and put it into a book, close my eyes and hand it to a publisher to push me to that point. It shouldn't have to take that long. Find your tribe. Yeah.
Find your people. Thank you all for listening to the Life Shift podcast. Thank you, Donna, for just being a part of this journey that I am on, that we're all on together. It's just been such a pleasure.
Oh, thank you, Matt. Any way I can help you in your community, you let me know.
Will do. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye, and I'll be back next week with a brand new episode of the Life Shift podcast. Thanks again, Donna.
Thank you.
For more information, please visit www.thelifeshiftpodcast.com.